Eu estou recebendo agora, com muito prazer, um craque. Aliás, quem acompanha o nosso programa já o conhece. É o Dr. John Lewis, que está aqui mais uma vez no Brasil, a convite da Ultrafama. Na verdade, ele é um consultor da Ultrafama. Eu quero falar um pouquinho do Lewis, que ele é um médico bastante diferenciado e muito respeitado. Ele é professor associado do Departamento de Psiquiatria e Ciências do Comportamento na Universidade Miller de Medicina, em Miami, nos Estados Unidos. É o principal pesquisador de nutrição, de dieta suplementar, exercícios e estudos de equipamentos médicos da universidade. É atleta, possui uma metodologia específica de treino e de suplementação e veio ao Brasil participar de um evento muito importante, que foi muito concorrido, o terceiro simpósio de educação continuada da Comissão Nacional de Médicos de Futebol, evento que foi organizado pela CBF e que aconteceu no Rio de Janeiro. The first time in Rio?
No, the second time.
Second time.
Second time.
Em São Paulo?
Third time.
Third time.
Yes.
How are you, Lewis?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. How are you?
And Miami?
I'm doing great in Miami. Miami is always welcome to you and to your friends and to my friends anytime.
Eu já vou começar perguntando ao Dr. John Lewis coisas que ele abordou no simpósio. Qual é a importância, Lewis, da suplementação para os atletas? Que foi uma coisa que você... suplementação vitamínica para os atletas.
Dietary supplementation for athletes is very important. So typically today we cannot get all of the food that we need all the nutrition that we need just from food alone. So taking dietary supplements is not only important for physical and athletic performance, but for health overall. And there is so much research now showing that certain key nutrients, for example, protein, carbohydrate, curcumin, creatine, branched chain amino acids, beetroot, cherry tart. There's so many different things now that are showing these specific nutrients, whether it's a macronutrient or a micronutrient, are very important for enhancing sports performance, physical performance. So I would tell any athlete watching the show today that if they're not taking a dietary supplement, they're not optimizing their performance. They're not being at the peak competition level because they're actually missing out on things that probably their competition is taking. So there is so much science that's been published now in terms of how important, again, these certain nutrients that I've mentioned are very important for physical performance of all types, whether it's aerobic endurance, strength, power, recovery time, even mood. I mean, even your mood is so important in terms of motivation, how you respond to a challenge, a stress, whatever. All these things are so improved by the fact that we can use dietary supplements to get to a next level in our competitive, let's say that in our competition, whether it's soccer, basketball, baseball, the sport doesn't matter. It's about enhancing the physical capacity.
All sports modalities.
All sports.
All sports.
Correct.
Lewis, e claro que tem uma importância a suplementação para quem não é praticante de exercícios, não é praticante de esportes. Qual é o tipo de recomendação que você faz em matéria de suplementação vitamínica? Porque tem muita gente, queria que você respondesse também, que coloca em dúvida a validade de uma suplementação vitamínica. Eu queria que você também falasse um pouquinho sobre as evidências que você teve como profissional a esse respeito.
Kind of the same thing for athletes, for people in the general population, people who are exercising, even people who are not exercising. Again, dietary supplements can be very important. The work that I have done in my own laboratory looking at specific saccharides, these are sugars, but I don't like to use the word sugar, I like to use the word saccharides because it's more biochemically correct. These things are very important for the immune system. They're very important for cognitive functioning. They're very important for the heart. They're very important for the liver. All of our major organs need nutritional support. And so again, it's challenging for many people to be able to get all the nutrition they need just through food alone. And so dietary supplements, with a high quality dietary supplement, this is where you can make up the deficit between what you're missing out on in the food and then what you can get with dietary supplements. So it's very important. And the science is, I mean, we have a lot of science today. This isn't like 40 years ago where, oh, well, you know, maybe it's speculation. Now, today, there are hundreds and thousands of studies that have been published showing the benefits of very crucial nutrients to our overall health and well-being.
Your opinion, what the 5 more important vitamins?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know if I could just give you 5.
Give me 5. Give me 5.
Give you 5. Well, okay, for one, we have, worldwide, there is a vitamin D deficiency. And vitamin D is so cheap. You know how we get vitamin D? Through the sunshine. If people would go out in the sun and then get their vitamin D, we wouldn't have this worldwide epidemic. Unfortunately, now people are scared of skin disease, melanoma, things that can damage the sun. And granted, you don't want to get too much sun exposure, but vitamin D is very inexpensive. It's not like taking, you know, something that's very cost prohibitive. It's very cheap for people to get vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to now so many different cancers, brain disease, heart disease, liver disease. Vitamin D is crucial for everyone to be taking. And so when you say a vitamin, you know, there are vitamins, there are minerals, there are phytochemicals, there are other things that go along with what we would call a nutrient or a dietary supplement. So I would say vitamin D is absolutely a big one. Omega-3 fatty acids is another important one. Omega-3 fatty acids are typically not consumed in great quantity today by the average person. Why is that? Well, we've shifted away from eating a lot of omega-3s to eating a lot of omega-6s and omega-9s. These are also fatty acids that we need, but we don't need them in the amounts that the average person is getting them today. So we've shifted away from too much omega-3 to too much omega-6 and omega-9. If we can get back to omega-3, now we reduce our risk of cardiovascular disease. We reduce our risk of brain disease. So this is also a very important nutrient. I would say magnesium is another one that's magnesium is very important. We think about calcium being so important for our bones, and so we eat all of this dairy food. I'm sorry, I can't speak to Brazil as much as I can the United States, but we have a lot of marketing, advertising about the importance of calcium for bone health. But the reality is people are not getting enough magnesium along with the calcium. So if you're taking in all this calcium and you're not getting enough magnesium along with it, that's a problem, because the body cannot assimilate the magnesium the way it can once you have it in about a 1-to-1 ratio. It won't be exactly 1-to-1, but typically people are very, very deficient in magnesium. So that's another one that's very important. Vitamin B12, that's another one that's very important.
B12.
B12. Lots of people all over the world are vitamin B12 deficient. So what happens when you become vitamin B12 deficient? You get dizzy, you get fatigued, you can't sleep, you start losing your memory, you get like cold hands, cold feet. Your whole body starts to change when you become vitamin B12 deficient. And again, it's inexpensive. It's not like a very expensive nutrient that needs to be taken, and yet so many people are not getting enough vitamin B12. So I would say that's probably number 4. And then if I had to say number 5, probably vitamin C. You know, Vitamin C. If we're just talking, you know, in general vitamins and minerals, vitamin C is also so crucial for every cell in our body. It helps.
The Professor Linus Pauling, you know about
Yes,
Linus
absolutely.
Pauling? Speak about.
I mean, Dr. Pauling had, I don't know, probably several hundred studies that were published looking at the effects of vitamin C and its effect against viruses, bacteria, cancer, all different kinds of diseases. He made amazing discoveries with this simple vitamin called C. And so, unfortunately, a lot of people are not getting enough vitamin C in their diet.
How many milligrams do you recommend?
In the United States, we say roughly about 100 milligrams per day.
In the United States? In
the United States, yes. So if you're not eating your oranges, your lemons, your limes, you need to take some vitamin C. You need to supplement with it. It's a water-soluble vitamin. It's very difficult for you to consume too much. And so again, it's very important because one of the main things that vitamin C does is it keeps our immune system functioning at a high level, and so that way we can keep from getting sick from virus, bacteria, things that commonly affect us. And so vitamin C, again, is something, probably the reason why we have so much immune dysfunction worldwide is because people are not taking enough vitamin C.
Eu faço hoje comercial com muita honra e com muito prazer de produto maravilhoso da Ultra Farma, do Sidney Oliveira, que é o ômega 3.
Yes.
E o ômega 3, eu queria que você falasse um pouquinho, porque o ômega 3 é muitíssimo importante hoje, não é, Lewis?
So important. As I mentioned just a moment ago, our immune system, for our heart, for our brain, for our liver, for our kidneys, all the major require these essential fatty acids to function properly. And as I was mentioning, people have typically shifted from eating omega-3s that you get in like almonds or walnuts, and they're eating a lot of omega-6 and omega-9 that you get from corn, for example. The oils that people are commonly using to cook with are a lot of saturated fat, omega-6, omega-9s, and not eating the polyunsaturated fats, again, things like walnuts, almonds, fish oil, if you will. Flaxseed is a very good source of omega-3s. There are a lot of really interesting plants that are very high in omega-3s, but they're not very common in the diet. And so again, people are not eating a lot of omega-3, and this is one of the reasons why, again, people are suggesting that we have such high rates of different types of cancers, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, MS, the list goes on and on and on. People are sick today. We have a planet of so many sick people, and omega-3s is one of the key things to not only helping people who are sick get healthy again, but if they're healthy now, like you and I are, if we're healthy, we don't want to get sick, right? We want to stay healthy. So we want to take our omega-3s to keep from getting any kind of disease as we go through the lifespan. So omega-3s are so important, and as I was mentioning earlier about the research in sports performance, there is now so much information that's being published. Year after year, we get more and more good information about the effect of omega-3 and how beneficial they are to the entire body, particularly the heart, the immune system that covers us from head to toe, and the brain. Those are the three most important areas.
What's the best vitamin to the libido?
For the libido.
Libido é assim que se fala? In English, libido?
Yes, for the libido.
For men and for women.
For men and for women. Wow, that's a great question. So this is an obvious area of topic, a topic area that the average person is very interested in.
No Viagra.
No Viagra.
I don't speak about Viagra.
That's right. We're staying natural here. We're not going down the drug route. So to boost your libido, omega-3s would actually be something that would be beneficial. Yes, absolutely, because exactly, because what you're doing is you're stimulating your brain. I mean, the most important part of sexual functioning, I mean, besides the actual tactile stimulation on the sexual organs themselves, is your brain, right? Your brain's functioning, and also microcirculation. So if someone has erectile dysfunction, that is actually microcirculation dysfunction. It's actually atherosclerosis. And so omega-3 fatty acids will help to keep the cardiovascular system running appropriately to allow blood flow to go where it's supposed to go at the appropriate time. But also an issue with libido would be depression. If someone is depressed, if they have a mood disorder, they're not probably going to want to be very sexually active. And so again, helping the brain to work properly with omega-3 fatty acids would be very important to help boost your overall mood, to help boost your cardiovascular system to function properly, and by default you have now a higher libido because you actually feel like having sex, you're not depressed, and your organs will actually function properly.
And the drinks, a little bit wine a day?
That's a
You drink wine?
I do not.
Nothing.
I do not drink alcohol.
Not alcoholic.
I don't drink alcohol. I stopped drinking about 3 years ago. Drinking alcohol is, I would say, a controversial topic, and here is why. On the one hand, research shows that drinking alcohol can reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, is it the alcohol itself? Is it the resveratrol? Or is it some combination of the two? We don't really know the answer to that. The wine industry says red wine is very high in resveratrol, and resveratrol is a known antioxidant.
Do you recommend the resveratrol in capsules?
Do I recommend it that way?
Yeah.
No, because you can get resveratrol from all your fruits and vegetables. What most people don't realize is you get all this resveratrol from fruits and vegetables just like you do from red grapes. But let me answer your question. So on the one hand, some of the research shows that drinking a little, as you said, a little bit of alcohol is good. There's no problem with it. It reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease. It puts you in a better mood. It reduces your stress. These are the kinds of things that alcohol has been shown to do a little bit, a moderate amount. However, on the other hand, that same amount of alcohol consumption has now been shown to be very significant risk factor for various forms of cancers, and particularly for women with breast cancer. It's even worse for women than it is for you and me as a man. So what do you want to do here? Do you want to weigh the difference between drinking for cardiovascular health or drinking and then exposing yourself to more risk of cancer? I would choose no drinking, because you can, again, get resveratrol from all your other fruits and vegetables. And why not do that? Because that way you get your benefit for your cardiovascular health, and then you don't have to expose yourself to different types of cancers. If you enjoy the taste of alcohol, okay, that's fine. Have a drink occasionally. But again, there has been a lot of research in the last few years that showed that even just a little bit of alcohol exposes you to greater cancer risk. So about 3 years ago, I made the decision not to drink anymore.
Olha, eu fiquei sabendo, eu pesquisei com a equipe do Dr. John Lewis, que nos honra com a sua visita, que ele mantém uma dieta muito especial à base de alimentos integrais. Eu queria que ele falasse sobre a dieta pessoal que ele adota.
So I have been eating a plant-based diet for 20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
Same foods?
Same basic foods. I have not eaten animal food for 20 years.
Animal foods?
No red meat, no fish, no eggs, no dairy, no poultry, nothing. I've only been eating plants for 20 years. There are now hundreds, if not thousands, of studies showing the benefits of eating a whole food, plant-based diet compared to eating animal tissue. And I don't consider, you said the word special, I don't know that it's anything special. I was inspired about 20 years ago to change the way I was eating, and it started happening over kind of like a baby step approach, where I first started out deciding that I no longer wanted to eat dairy food, drink milk, eat cheese, and then it went from there, and I started eliminating other animal foods. And so once I made the decision to start down that path, over about a 6-month period, I totally eliminated all animal food. And so again, this has now been about a 20-year period where I only eat plants. I eat a wide range of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes. I basically eat any plant. I don't really have a preference for one or the other. I eat a lot of greens, anything that's green, like spinach, broccoli, kale, collard greens. Those are green foods are most of my favorites. I eat a lot of beans, lentils, brown rice, nuts and seeds. I make a smoothie every day. That's one of the things I can't do it when I'm traveling. I don't have my blender with me.
The Brazilian feijoada? Never.
No.
Never.
No.
And the caipirinha?
No.
Never.
No. So I start my day every day with a smoothie. That's one of the things that I have created a habit for over the last 20 years. I start with a little base of water, some different types of fruits. I like berries, a lot of different berries, and then I put in some greens, something green, and then a different mix of nuts and seeds every day. That's the meal that I start with every day. And I usually eat somewhere between 2 and 3 meals a day. That's usually what I maintain at this point, around probably 2,500 calories a day, something like that. And it works for me. And then I combine that with my exercise training. I try to work out every day. I do something for 45 to 60 minutes every day, and I do a very high intensity type of training. So my goal is to be as healthy as I can for as long as I can. There is no cure for death. I recognize that, but my goal is to not be sick. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be a dependent on anyone. I don't want to be a burden to anyone. My goal is to be healthy till I die, and live a fulfilling life till I die, and be a model to other people, help other people understand that nutrition and exercise is not really that difficult. Unless you have dementia, if you cannot think for yourself, if you're very poor, it's a different circumstance as well. But for most people in the world, if they can afford to take the time to understand the value of nutrition and dietary supplements and exercise, then they can live a very healthy and fulfilling life. They don't have to be on medications. They don't have to get type 2 diabetes. They don't have to get heart disease. They can avoid most cancers. They can keep their brain healthy. They can do all these things and not have a problem and live a very fulfilling and long life. And that's my goal.
John, você recomenda a utilização, a ingestão de suplementos alimentares, de vitaminas, a partir de que idade?
Most research has not been done on children, but at the age of adulthood, let's say 18 and older, anyone can start taking dietary supplements. And again, as I was mentioning earlier, prevention is so important. The last thing I like to see people do is get sick and then try to correct the problem. Let's stay healthy in the first place. Let's stay healthy, eat good food, take your dietary supplements, exercise every day, and stay healthy. And that way we don't have to end up on medication. We don't have to end up in the hospital. We don't have to have surgery. We don't have to have chemotherapy and radiation. Let's stay healthy in the first place. So I would say yes, once someone becomes an adult, start supplementing. It's the way to help ensure that your body gets all the nutrients that it needs to function properly.
Vitaminas não engordam.
I'm saying any kind of phytochemical, vitamins, minerals, all the different phytochemicals. I mean, I could go through a whole list of different things that are very important. Curcumin, for example, and I understand it's not really something very common in Brazil, but that's a phytochemical that has a lot of anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, anti-cancer properties that is so amazing for health. But the vitamins, yes, we need the vitamins. Again, a lot of people are vitamin D deficient. A lot of people are vitamin B12 deficient. We need the minerals. A lot of people don't get enough magnesium every day. So we need to take certain key vitamins and minerals to keep us being healthy. Probiotics is another one we didn't mention yet. I mean, there is so much information now coming in into the mass media in terms of what science is discovering. This down here, our gut, is actually our brain. So much of the neurotransmitters that we think are really common in the brain, like dopamine and serotonin, actually most of that is formed in the intestine, in our gut. And so our brain is so eloquently linked to our gut. And if our gut is not healthy, our brain cannot possibly be healthy. So taking a probiotic is something that helps keep the flora in balance in your gut to help your gut continue working properly, because we have this constant communication going back and forth between our gut, the brain in our gut, and the brain in our head. It's a fascinating discovery that's going on, showing how the gut works in comparison to the brain or in conjunction with the brain. And the flora that we have in there is so important. And if so, the good flora are being outbalanced by the bad flora. If we had too much bad bacteria in there, it causes all kinds of problems. And to me, it's no wonder we have so many people today who have depression and anxiety and other mood disorder, because their gut is a mess. And if we can get their gut fixed, then their brain is going to function better, and they'll not have depression or anxiety or be on the way to dementia or other neurodegenerative problems. It's so fascinating. And so probiotics can be a part of your daily regimen to help protect your gut and keep that second brain functioning properly.
The vitamins, no or yes?
So yes, that's a great question. I'm sure people probably wonder about this. Dietary supplements will not make you fat. Dietary supplements have let's be very clear. Dietary supplements are typically micronutrients, meaning that they don't have any energy. They don't have any carbohydrate, fat, protein. You can take a dietary supplement that's like, a protein powder that comes like in a big container that you would use as a pre-workout or a post-workout formula. Those have energy in them, but it would be literally impossible for somebody to get fat taking a protein powder, a post-workout, a pre-workout powder. Food makes people fat. We are unfortunately becoming an obese species. We have obesity, overweight running rampant all over the world, and it's because people are eating too much food, not because they're taking too many dietary supplements. Literally, it's literally impossible. It's like me drilling a hole in my head and feeling no pain there. That's how impossible it would be to say that dietary supplements would make people fat. It does not happen.
John Lewis, last question.
Yes.
Herbs antioxidants.
Okay.
Like pycnogenol, L-glutathione. Your opinion about the herbs?
Great question. So, some herbs are really amazing. You mentioned too, pycnogenol. Again, that's something that's had a lot of really good science published on it. And antioxidants, and you said specifically antioxidants. Let me address that. Antioxidants are so important. We are constantly, you and I just sitting here right now, our body is being stressed out because every time we take in a breath, when we process that oxygen and exhale out carbon dioxide, we have created oxidative stress on all those cells in our body. And so our body is constantly fighting this back and forth between being antioxidant and pro-oxidant. And so we need enough antioxidants in the system to be able to keep that oxidative stress down. And so you mentioned a great one, pycnogenol, which does that very well. Glutathione is also considered the master antioxidant in the body. And unfortunately, as we age, our glutathione levels start going down like this. And so the older we get, the less glutathione the body makes. So it's very important to have nutrition. Things like vitamin C, for example, is another one that's a very well recognized antioxidant. Vitamin E is another one. Beta carotene is another one. Alpha lipoic acid is another one. These are all nutrients that we can get through dietary supplements in nice concentrated quantities to be able to elevate that glutathione level in the body. So that's so important. And so again, depending on what your goal is, depending on what your purpose is for taking that product, we all are being bombarded every day by oxidative stress, by inflammation, by the toxins that we breathe in the air that we can't even see, by the stuff in the soil, by what in the water in our food. Everything that we're now taking into our body has some level of toxins, pollution, chemical contamination, whatever. And so all of these nutrients are so crucial to keeping that status, that antioxidant status, on the side where we want it to, and not on the bad side, the pro-oxidant side. Now we can also be too pro-oxidant. We also don't want to, be too pro-oxidant either. It's kind of like you can drink enough water and drown. You can drown on water, of course. But again, that's a very extreme example that most people are not in danger of. So the idea that you would take things like pycnogenol or L-glutathione is, again, very important, especially as we age, especially as we get older.
São ervas que não têm à venda no Brasil, porque ainda não foram aprovadas e esperamos que a outra farma faça um esforço para trazer os benefícios de pycnogenol e etc. Não é?
Of course. So in the meantime, when you don't have things that have been approved in the U.S. or other countries and not in Brazil, that makes it even more important to have your vitamin C, your vitamin E, your beta carotene, all of these vitamins that we know are known antioxidants. Those are even more important if you don't have access to some of these other, let's call them a little bit more exotic herbs, a little bit more exotic dietary supplements. To be able to use the vitamins that you do have access to here in Brazil to help boost your antioxidant status is even more important, and your omega-3s. I should include that as well, even though that's a fatty acid, not a vitamin. But again, it helps create an antioxidant environment for your body.
Thank you, John Lewis. Thank you very much. John Lewis, que eu vou repetir, do Departamento de Psiquiatria e Ciências do Comportamento na Universidade Miller, de Medicina, de Miami, nos Estados Unidos, consultor da Ultrafarma e convidado do Sidney Oliveira para mais uma temporada no Brasil. Welcome again in Brazil and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.